So the next presentation is by Chainlink's CPO, Chief Product Officer, Kemal. Kemal El Moujahid joined Chainlink Labs as Chief Product Officer in May of 2022. Previously, he was the Director of Product Management for TensorFlow at Google, the world's #1 open source machine learning platform, where he scaled it to 300 million downloads and some of the largest enterprise use cases for AI. Prior to his work at TensorFlow, Kemal was at Meta, formerly known as Facebook, where he launched the Messenger platform connecting 20 million businesses with 1 billion people. While there, he also launched M, Facebook's virtual assistant, ultimately reaching 200 million monthly active users. Please give a warm welcome to Kemal.
Thank you. Thank you. So there are a lot of ways to think about a Web3. So let me give you my take on it. Web3 is about giving builders new superpowers. New superpowers. Until now, if you wanted to build anything, it had to be centralized, which means that your app or service could just be shut down. So you couldn't guarantee to your users that they could have access to your app. The second thing is, well, you could cheat. You could change the rules of the game. So you could promise one thing, and then your users could see something else happen. And then you couldn't move or secure value very easily because it was centralized. But Web3, with cryptography and decentralization, changes everything. Now you can build an app that cannot be shut down. So you can guarantee to your users globally that they can have access to your service. Also, you can't cheat. The way you wrote the source code, the smart contract, is going to execute as expected. So now you can build trust at scale because your users know whatever you told them, whatever is in the code, is going to execute. And you can move value, you can secure value at scale securely. Now, those superpowers are unprecedented. We've never seen this before. So for the first time, you can now build those things. You could build a bank that is transparent with the use of its funds. So, you're putting your money at the bank, and they're saying they're using it a certain way, and you have to trust them. With these new superpowers, a bank can say, look, you can see how I'm using your funds. You can build an insurance that pays out automatically. No more, hey, trust me, you're going to go to the claims department and somehow maybe get your payment. No, the insurance doesn't have a choice. It will pay you back if the conditions are met. You can create a game that will let you own your asset so that magic wand or invisibility cape that you worked hard to earn in the game, you can keep it, even if the game shuts down. You can sell it. Someone else can build a game that uses the same magic wand. You can play a lottery that's fair, that's provably fair. Right now, lotteries tell you, trust us, the randomness is fair, but you can have a proof that randomness is fair. You can build AI systems that lets you keep ownership of your data. Think about it. Right now, we all contribute voluntarily to putting data in very large lakes where very useful AIs are being built, but this is not your data. We can have social networks that cannot sell your data. You don't have to trust them that they're not selling or using your data. Now, this is a huge deal. Okay, consumers are going to demand it. They just don't know yet about it, right? I remember the first time I downloaded music. I don't know about you, but when I downloaded music, I thought, that's it. I'm not buying a CD anymore. I'm going to download music right now. And now we're all download music. This is the same thing. The first time you're going to be at a dinner and someone says, you know what? I put money in my bank. I know what they're doing with my funds. You're going to think, wait, do I know this about my bank? I don't know this about my bank. So you're going to go to your bank and say, why don't you do that? I want that. I didn't know that was possible. So that's the behavior. And that's why Web3 is inevitable, because builders can build it, and consumers will demand it. That's why it's inevitable. So Chainlink, what we do is we put these Web3 superpowers in the hands of all builders. What do I mean by that? Any of those valuable use cases, those real-world use cases, they need a connection between those smart contracts and Web2. A Web2 data, Web2 system, an AI system, a legacy payment system, something that's already been built. You can't rebuild everything on Web3. So any of those use cases that I mentioned, anything that matters, anything that will drive mass adoption, requires a connection with Web2 or real world. And why is that a problem? Well, connecting a smart contract with Web2 is a very difficult thing to solve. It needs to stay decentralized. You can't have a naive point-to-point connection between a smart contract and a Web2 server. It needs to be secure and reliable. It needs to work across multiple chains. You need to provide some form of computation to process the data that's coming from the Web2 world. And it needs to be self-serve, because developers, builders, it needs to be super easy for them to do. Chainlink is the leader in solving this problem, with over $7 trillion of value enabled last year. We're deployed over 15 chains. We're very lucky to be working with all these innovators and building the standard, the industry standard in DeFi and beyond. So what we're building is a Web3 services platform that allows you to build those apps, those hybrid apps, and solve the three main problems that those developers face. One is data, bringing data from Web2. One is compute, all the compute functionalities that do not exist natively on Web3, like automation. And the third one is cross-chain, allowing cross-chain messaging and cross-chain asset transfers. Now, what's exciting is just the beginning. There's 30,000 active Web3 developers right now, monthly, I think. There's 30 million developers out there, okay? And they're looking for ways to get in, to build those services. So what we need to do is make it super easy for them to build those value propositions so that consumers can see that it's possible to consume those services, and they go demand it from the rest of the ecosystem. And one thing that our developers have been asking us for a very long time for, and we just launched at ETH Denver, is Chainlink Functions. This is something that's going to massively, massively open up the game. It's a way for a smart contract to make an API call to any Web2 service you can think about. So if you're a Web2 developer, it's a game changer, because you've been building a lot of things on Web2. You don't want to rebuild everything on Web3. But now, with Chainlink Functions, you can make this API call. And we're very proud to be launching this with developers, startups, big brands, AWS, Google, Meta, Twilio, Music, Third Web, Bloxcoals. I highly, highly encourage you to look it up. And it's pretty amazing to see the creativity of developers when they have this in their hands. One of the really cool things that I've done personally is I've reached out to a former colleague at Google who works on AI, and we built a smart contract that generates art. So you could look it up online, you just type in a prompt, and then it generates some cool art based on that. And the smart contract is making the call to an AI system. Speaking of AI, before Chainlink, I was leading TensorFlow, the largest machine learning platform in the world. So I get this question very often: what about AI and Web3? Well, AI and Web3 is really a match made in heaven. AI is about intelligence at scale, and Web3 is about trust, coordination, and value transfer at scale. If you can bring them together, then there's no limit to what you can do with those two technologies. So here's some examples. The first one is really just smart contract coding became incredibly easy. This is huge for a field like Web3, where onboarding is not always that easy. So using something like ChatGPT or Copilot to build those smart contracts is becoming incredibly easy to do. AI is also really good at picking up those patterns hidden in the data. And so things like identifying fraudulent behavior, securing all these transactions, that's something that's a pretty obvious use case. Augmented smart contract. With functions, a smart contract can make a call to the most powerful AI system that lives on Web 2. So you can imagine a prediction API, you can imagine a trading bot, you can imagine pretty much everything as soon as you can match those two together. And then there are those chain-powered AI systems that people have started to think about. How do you essentially give those Web3 superpowers to AI systems? You could solve a big problem in AI with data collection. You have all these disparate data silos that people can't or won't share to build those AI systems. So you could do distributed training with distributed incentives and other really cool things there. So lots of things that are cooking in this field. OK, so what now? Usually, at this point, people are like, OK, I get it. What now? What do I do? How do I start? Well, the first thing to internalize is that Web3 is not a binary thing. It's not a, hey, I got to build everything on Web3. It is a spectrum. So some will start Web3 native, but most businesses, developers will start from a Web2 position, and we'll think about, how do I differentiate with these new superpowers? What can I do that my competitor can't do or won't do that will give me an edge? How can I create a service that's more transparent, more fair? Or if I'm an insurance player, can I create some way to show that my payments are guaranteed? If I'm a bank, can I have more transparency? How do I leverage those new superpowers? So people often get blocked on, wait, I can't rebuild everything in Web3. You don't have to. Just pick the thing that you think will create a differentiator and start with that. That's the first thing. Now remember, it is inevitable. Inevitable. Every business will have a Web3 strategy. Just like every business has an internet strategy, or mobile strategy, an AI strategy. Okay, so this is because consumers are going to demand these new properties as soon as they see it's possible. So look, I've seen these disruptions. One of the things that's also important to note is that they're not linear. They're exponential, which means there's an acceleration phase, and this is where you want to get in. You don't want to get in when it's obvious to everybody, because then it's a bit late. So if you're lucky to be here, to be in the space, to see what's happening, this is the right time to get in. We're excited to build this with you. Come build this with us. Let's build it together. Thank you.